It's Saturday, and it's time to kick off the Experts program. Our tech expert, Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, joins us right now on Power Talk Radio. Luis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mark. How are you today?
You know, I'm doing really great because it is the weekend that Car Week starts, and it's one of my favorite weeks of the year in Monterey County when we get to see all those great cars. And, of course, you have the historic races at Laguna Seca and just all over town, everywhere from Carmel Valley to Carmel out to the Bayonet and Black Horse golf courses in Seaside. There's just something going on for everybody to check out.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who lives up in Seattle, and he was just telling me that I don't appreciate what a great place I live in to see all of these cars in such a small venue and so up close and personal, because it's rare that these car shows are so easily accessible to our community, because normally they are not like that elsewhere. So we should be grateful, even though we complain about the traffic and all the people coming in. It's still a terrific week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Now, in a lot of instances, of course, many of these events raise money for charity, so there are oftentimes big ticket admission prices that are attached to them. But there are plenty of opportunities to see great cars for free. And I'll give you an example. Every Saturday morning from 8 to 10 a.m., car enthusiasts meet in the parking lot of the Chili's restaurant on Canyon Del Rey. That's right next to the Embassy Suites Hotel. Today, the 10th, there are a lot of cars out there today, but next Saturday, on the 17th, that is the biggest cars and coffee that we have on the peninsula every year, and there will be probably 200 cars there, and it'll spill over into the Embassy Suites parking lot. So not only will you see many of the regular cars that are brought out by local folks to that event, but also people that bring their cars into town for Car Week that aren't officially, they're not affiliated in any official capacity with any of the events, but they're just driving a classic car. They bring it there. And then kind of the coda to that event, Luis, is that while everybody is over there in the Chili's parking lot doing their thing and rubbing elbows and looking at the cars, across the street on the lawn of the Seaside City Hall government complex, that's where they set up the Concours des Lemons. Yeah. And so you can go over to Chili's and look at all those cars and then cross the street and see the Concours des Lemons, and that is always a blast. That's always a lot of fun to see that as well. So, and those are admission-free events. So, if you're scared off,
showed up once. Right?
That's right. If you're scared off by some of the admission prices from some of the big ticket events, there are still plenty of opportunities to see great cars, and you can do so for not any money at all.
Exactly.
Hey, so moving along to another story that we've got a couple big stories to talk about today. And earlier this year, haven't seen too many of them. I think I might have gotten one a couple of weeks ago the last time, but for a while, earlier this year and last year, I was receiving texts that were claiming to be from the United States Postal Service attempting to deliver a package to my home, but they were having trouble, and all I needed to do was to click on a link in the text, and it was going to make it possible for me to find out where my package was and how to get it and everything like that. Well, the U.S. Postal Service doesn't use a texting service at all for that kind of a thing. And it was actually scammers from somewhere overseas doing this, and they duped a number of people and ripped them off. Well, this one guy, this man's wife, was duped by these scammers, so he hacked their operation and got even with them. What do you know about this, Luis? It sounds like a happy ending to the story.
Yeah, so gentleman's name is Grant Smith, and he had seen a lot of these texts coming to him and friends, and they all talked about it and ignored them. But a couple of days later, his wife called him and she said, "Hey, I clicked on the link and I put in our credit card details, and I think I screwed up." And sure enough, she had. But rather than just calling the credit card company and canceling that card and being done with it, Mr. Smith, who happens to be a cybersecurity red team engineer, which means he is the kind of guy that goes after bad guys, he decided, I'm going to find out who these guys are and I'm going to put them out of business. And sure enough, he spent several weeks tracking down this Chinese language group behind the campaign, hacked into their systems. He collected evidence of all of their activities, and he basically took it to the U.S. Postal Service investigators and the banks, who then, brought in the authorities to crack down on these guys. So you never know who can be a victim, and sometimes those victims can fight back like Mr. Smith did.
I'm glad to hear that he did that. The only thing I wish he could have done was if he could have come up with some kind of a worm to put into their network to basically brick their network. And all their machines. That would be the best ending to that story.
I think even though that's against the law, we probably would have just looked the other way, right?
Exactly. Hey, we've got a big story to talk about today, and it has to do with Google and its search engine. And a U.S. judge, I believe a circuit court judge, ruled that Google illegally maintains a monopoly over internet search. Now, this ruling is a major, major setback for Google.
It is.
And its parent Alphabet Incorporated. What do you know about this?
Yeah, so this is a lawsuit that's been winding its way through the system where Google, which has about 70%, if not more, of the search engine traffic in the world, is accused of basically creating a monopoly, not just because they have the search engine which they pay companies like Apple and Samsung to embed in their phones and their tablets as the primary search engine, but also that they pay off a lot of other organizations that would otherwise compete with them. The story is pretty in-depth, but at the end of the day, what's happened is a sea change in a ruling where Google has now been ruled to be monopolistic, and the next step, even though of course Google is going to be appealing that ruling, they still will go forward with remediation, or how do we make this right? And if you remember the AT&T Baby Bell situation, AT&T got broken up by the federal government, and after they were ruled to be a monopoly into multiple Bell companies that exist to this day. And people are wondering, are they going to break Google up? How are they going to do this? And what does this mean for other tech companies that also enjoy a significant chunk of the market for their products? Are they going to be accused of monopolistic behavior, and are they going to be targeted by the Fed? So this is a moment in time for tech companies that they weren't expecting to happen, but now they have to start dealing with it.
Right. And one of the primary things that came out at the trial was evidence that showed that Google spends more than $20 billion a year on these contracts that give it exclusivity as far as being the primary or default search engine preloaded on cell phones and computers. So Justice Department lawyers said that huge sum was indicative of how important it was for Google to make themselves the default search engine and blocking competitors from getting a foothold. So I think that was kind of the Rosetta Stone in the evidence that led to the ruling.
Yeah, if you're spending $20 billion, how much more money are you making in return, right? So that's, I think, indicative of how the type of money that we're talking about when it comes to the search engine operations.
And I think the other thing coming out of this is that Google, not only this is one case that's really going to hurt them in the settlement, but there is also legislation working its way through Congress and the Senate, and then also individual states are enacting, or they're looking at enacting, bills that would force companies like Google to pay directly, cash money directly to traditional news outlets, because these organizations, people like Google and so forth, with their news services and everything, they appropriate content that is produced by journalistic organizations, news organizations, and those outfits don't get anything for it. In the meantime, their advertising revenue that sustains their operations is scooped out by these tech companies like Google. Contention is that they are legally benefiting from somebody else's work and they're not paying for it, and this is a means to make them pay for it. So there are more, I guess you could say, troubled waters on their horizon.
Yeah, this is only the first shoe to drop. There's plenty more coming, trust me.
Exactly. All right, that's Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, joining us this Saturday morning as we talk technology here on Power Talk Radio. Online, you'll find them at alvareztg.com. At AlvarezTG is their X handle, and Luis, the toll-free number for the I-Team.
Give us a call at 866-78-I-Team. That's 866-784-8326.
And Luis, looking ahead to Monday, we've got a really interesting story about AI in the Olympics.
Yeah, if you're out there in Paris attending the Olympics, AI may be watching you and reporting on your behavior, so tune in to learn more.
All right, that's Monday morning starting at 8:30 right here on Power Talk Radio. Luis, thanks again and have a great weekend.
You too, my friend. Take care.